Code blue karma. The boardroom door slammed so hard the water glasses shook. Get out. CEO Marcus Brennan's face was red, veins bulging in his neck. He was standing now, leaning across the table, screaming directly into my face from 2 feet away. You're done here. Finished. Do you understand me? I stood there, silent. Around the table, 8 executives stared at their laptops or the walls. No one moved. No one spoke. I was director of clinical compliance. I outranked half the people in that room on paper. I'd been with the hospital for 11 years. My performance reviews were spotless. And he was screaming at me like I was nothing. Did you hear me? Get out. The meeting had been about budget compliance. I'd raised concerns about billing irregularities in the cardiology department. Standard oversight.
My job.
Brennan had exploded. I picked up my tablet and walked to the door. My hands were steady. My face was calm. But inside, something had shifted. He'd just made a mistake. A big one. I went back to my office and waited. No call from HR. No termination notice. No security escort. Nothing. I checked my email, my access, my badge permissions. Everything still worked. He hadn't fired me officially. He just screamed at me to leave. In front of witnesses. Which meant there was no paper trail.
No documentation.
No procedure followed. He wanted fear, not process. He wanted me to quit. To disappear quietly, because I was intimidated. That was his mistake. Because without documentation, without following hospital policy, he just created a massive liability. And he didn't even know it. I sat at my desk and opened my employment contract, the one I'd negotiated 3 years ago when they promoted me to director level. I scrolled to Section 7, Ethics and Compliance Protections. There it was, the clause my attorney had insisted on, the one HR had barely read before approving. Any retaliatory action against compliance personnel triggers automatic external oversight review. Automatic. External. No internal approval needed. The clause activated itself. I opened my laptop and began typing. The incident report was 1 page.
No emotion.
Just facts.
Date. Time.
Location. Witnesses present. Exact words spoken. CEO Marcus Brennan verbally ordered me to leave a budget compliance meeting after I raised concerns about billing irregularities. He did not follow termination procedures. No HR documentation was provided. No cause was stated. I attached the meeting agenda, the compliance report I'd been presenting, the list of attendees. Then I submitted it through the ethics portal at 4:47 p.m. The system timestamped it, logged it, created a case number automatically. Because of my contract clause, the report bypassed internal HR entirely. It went straight to the external compliance hotline maintained by our parent company's legal department. They operated independently. They didn't report to Brennan. They didn't answer to hospital administration. And once a case was opened, it couldn't be closed without investigation. The system sent an auto-confirmation to my email, case #C, 2024-1847 opened. Initial review within 24 hours. I forwarded the confirmation to my personal email and saved copies to 3 different drives. Then I went home. By sunrise, someone would be asking questions. Questions Brennan couldn't control. The next morning, I arrived at 7 a.m. like always. My badge still worked. My office was untouched. But something was different. At 7:23 a.m., I got an email from Brennan's assistant. Staff meeting, 9 a.m., mandatory attendance.
No agenda.
No context. I knew what this was. He was going to control the narrative. Tell everyone his version before anyone asked questions. At 8:15 a.m., I got a different email. From an address I didn't recognize. Case C, 2024-1847 under active review. Please document any subsequent contact with subject personnel. External investigator assigned. They'd moved fast. At 8:47 a.m., I accessed the hospital's internal system to check my compliance files. Everything I'd submitted yesterday was still there. But someone had tried to access my account at 11:34 p.m. last night. The login attempt had failed. Wrong password. Someone was trying to get into my files. I checked the metadata logs. The access attempt came from an administrator-level account. Not Brennan's account, but someone with similar privileges. They were already trying to cover tracks. But they were too late. I'd already documented everything, and the external case was already open. At 9 a.m., I walked into the staff meeting. Brennan stood at the head of the conference room, composed now. Professional. I want to address yesterday's budget meeting, he began. Emotions ran high. Some individuals showed insubordination during a sensitive discussion. Insubordination. There it was. His official story. When leadership makes decisions, we expect cooperation, not confrontation. Yesterday, Dr. Hayes chose confrontation. He looked directly at me. That behavior is unacceptable in a professional environment. Dr. Hayes. That was me. Carmen Hayes, Director of Clinical Compliance. He continued. We have processes for raising concerns. Disrupting executive meetings is not one of them. Around the table, people shifted uncomfortably. They'd been there. They knew what actually happened. But no one spoke. Moving forward, compliance reports will be submitted through proper channels only. No more grandstanding in leadership meetings. He was rewriting history, claiming I'd been insubordinate, disruptive. Except he'd just contradicted himself. I'd submitted my compliance report through proper channels. That's what triggered the meeting. And the meeting itself was scheduled and approved by his office. The badge data would show I was invited. The meeting logs would show I was on the agenda. His version didn't match the evidence. At 9:47 a.m., someone noticed. The email came from Compliance Auditing, a department that reported to corporate, not Brennan. Discrepancy flagged in incident documentation. Video review requested for Conference Room B, May 14th, 8:30 to 9:15 a.m. Someone had pulled the security footage. Conference Room B had cameras. Audio recording. Everything logged automatically for exactly this reason, to protect the hospital from liability. The footage would show the entire meeting. Brennan screaming. Me standing silently. The witnesses frozen. It would show I hadn't been insubordinate. I'd been doing my job. And it would show he'd lost control. At 10:15 a.m., I got called into HR. Not by Brennan. By Patricia Vance, the Chief Human Resources Officer. She looked uncomfortable. Dr. Hayes, I need to ask you some questions about yesterday's meeting. Of course. There are conflicting accounts of what happened. I submitted a full incident report last night. Case number C, 2024-1847. Her face changed. You filed externally? My contract requires it for any retaliatory action against compliance personnel. She pulled up something on her computer. Read it. Her expression tightened. I see. That's correct. She looked at me carefully. Dr. Hayes, several executives who were present have been designated as witnesses. They'll need to provide statements. I understand. Some of them are uncomfortable with that. That's not my concern. She hesitated. This is going to escalate. It already has. At 2:30 p.m., my phone rang. Private number. Dr. Hayes? This is Claire Winters, Chief Financial Officer. I'd worked with Claire before. She was sharp, careful, and intensely political. Ms. Winters, can we meet? Off campus. Why? Because I need to talk to you about Marcus Brennan, and I can't do it here. We met at a coffee shop 3 miles from the hospital. She arrived carrying a leather portfolio, looking over her shoulder like someone might follow her. How long have you been documenting him? She asked as soon as she sat down. Documenting what? His behavior. His decisions. The things he does when he thinks no one's watching. I said nothing. I've been doing it for 3 years, she continued. Every inappropriate outburst. Every time he overrode protocol. Every time he threatened someone's career for disagreeing with him. She opened the portfolio. I have emails. Altered financial reports. Suppressed audit findings. All of it. Why are you telling me this? Because yesterday wasn't the first time he's done this. It's just the first time someone had the contractual protection to fight back. She pushed the portfolio toward me. This is labeled contingency. I've been waiting for the right moment to use it. And that moment is now. Your ethics case opened a door. External investigators are already involved. They'll start digging. And when they do, they need to know where to look. She stood up. I'm sending you a file tonight. Encrypted. Password is your case number. She looked at me directly. Your incident is just the spark, Dr. Hayes. But I've been building the fire for years. The file arrived at 9:47 p.m. 37 pages. Emails, spreadsheets, meeting minutes, audit reports. All of it carefully organized. All of it damning. Emails showing Brennan ordering staff to alter financial projections. Screenshots of him threatening employees who questioned budget decisions. Records of him suppressing safety concerns to avoid regulatory scrutiny. One email made my blood run cold. From Brennan to the VP of Operations. Handle the compliance issue quietly. If Hayes keeps pushing, find a reason to move her out. Dated 6 weeks ago. He'd been planning to get rid of me long before yesterday's meeting. The outburst wasn't spontaneous. It was strategic. Or it was supposed to be. At 6:30 a.m. the next morning, I forwarded everything to the external investigator assigned to my case. With a cover note, additional documentation relevant to Case C, 2024-1847. Source, CFO Claire Winters, willing to provide testimony. By 8 a.m., I got a response. Case scope expanded. Full organizational review initiated. They weren't just investigating my incident anymore. They were investigating everything. Brennan sent a hospital-wide email at 10 a.m. Subject, protecting our culture. It has come to my attention that certain individuals are attempting to undermine hospital leadership through baseless accusations and procedural manipulation. Let me be clear, we will not tolerate those who prioritize personal agendas over patient care and organizational stability. Anyone engaging with external parties to damage this institution's reputation will face immediate consequences. We have built something remarkable here, and I will not let it be destroyed by those who refuse to be team players. If you have concerns, bring them to me directly. Going outside the chain of command is not just unprofessional, it's a betrayal. I read it 3 times. He was threatening people. Framing ethics reporting as betrayal. The language was almost identical to emails cited in previous wrongful termination settlements at other hospitals he'd worked at. I knew this because I'd researched him after Claire's meeting. Marcus Brennan had been CEO at 2 hospitals before ours. He'd left both under confidential settlements. NDAs prevented details from being public, but patterns emerged in court filings. Hostile work environment. Retaliation against whistleblowers. Financial irregularities. He had a history, and he just put it in writing again. I forwarded his email to the investigator with a single line, retaliation documented. The response came within minutes. Acknowledged. Secondary ethics, pathway activated per corporate policy. External counsel replacing internal review. Brennan had just lost control of the investigation. By that afternoon, everything changed. The external investigators weren't from corporate HR anymore. They were from the law firm that handled regulatory compliance for the entire hospital system. They didn't ask permission. They didn't wait for approval. They arrived with subpoena power and started pulling records. Brennan held an emergency executive meeting at 4 p.m. I wasn't invited, but Claire was. She texted me afterward. He's panicking, demanding to know who's talking. Threatening to fire anyone who cooperates with investigators. That was another mistake. Threatening witnesses during an active investigation was obstruction. At 5:30 p.m., the investigators requested access to the hospital's communication systems going back 5 years. Not just Brennan's emails. Everyone's. Including deleted messages. Because here's what most people don't know. Corporate email systems archive everything. Even deleted messages are stored on backup servers for legal compliance. Nothing is ever really gone. At 6:15 p.m., I got a message from the lead investigator. We're conducting interviews starting tomorrow. Please keep your schedule flexible. At 7 p.m., Claire sent me a one-word text. Archive. I knew what she meant. They'd found the deleted messages. The archive went back 63 months. Over 12,000 emails.
Shalog.
Calendar entries. Meeting recordings. All of it preserved on backup servers that Brennan apparently didn't know existed. The investigators worked through the night. By morning, they'd found patterns. Emails where Brennan discussed managing problematic employees. Messages about altering reports before board meetings. Instructions to suppress safety incidents. And then they found a recording from a leadership retreat 18 months ago. The session was supposed to be off the record, casual. But someone had left a recording device running. On the tape, Brennan was laughing with his executive team about a nurse who'd filed an ethics complaint. She actually thought someone would take her seriously. His voice was clear, amused. These people don't understand how the world works. You file a report, I file a termination. End of story. Someone asked, what if she escalates? Brennan laughed harder. To who? I control the process. Ethics reporting here is like writing a letter to Santa Claus. Makes you feel better, changes nothing. He'd mocked the entire ethics system. By name. The investigators submitted the recording to the hospital board at 11:47 a.m. By 2 p.m., the board called an emergency closed session. Brennan wasn't invited to that one either. At 4:30 p.m., my phone rang. Dr. Hayes. Brennan's voice was different. Quiet. Controlled. Mr. Brennan. I think we should talk. Clear up some misunderstandings. I don't believe there are any misunderstandings.
Please.
Just give me 10 minutes. Off the record. Off the record. Like he could make this disappear with a conversation. I'm not interested in speaking with you directly. All communication should go through the investigators. Carmen. Dr. Hayes. Please. The desperation was obvious now. What do you want? What would it take to resolve this quietly? I don't want anything. Everyone wants something.
A promotion?
Different responsibilities? Name it. He was trying to negotiate. Trying to find my price. Mr. Brennan, this conversation is inappropriate. I'm ending it now. Wait. I hung up. Then I immediately called the investigator and reported the call. Verbatim. He offered you incentives to drop the complaint. The investigator asked. He asked what I wanted to resolve this quietly. That's witness tampering. Or attempted, at least. She sighed. He's making this worse for himself. Should I have taken the call? You did exactly right. Document everything. Forward any other contact immediately. That evening, I got an email from Brennan. Official. Carefully worded. But still wrong. The email was an apology. Dr. Hayes. Upon reflection, I recognized that my behavior during last week's meeting was inappropriate. The pressure of budget constraints affected my judgment. I should not have raised my voice or asked you to leave. I value your contributions to this organization and hope we can move forward professionally. I apologize for any distress my actions caused. Respectfully, Marcus Brennan. It sounded reasonable, mature, but it was also an admission. He'd just confirmed in writing that he'd behaved inappropriately, that he'd ordered me to leave, that his actions caused distress. Everything I'd reported in my initial complaint. He documented his own misconduct while trying to make peace. I forwarded it to the investigator without comment. Her response, this helps significantly. He's confirming the incident occurred and acknowledging inappropriate behavior. Combined with the recording and witness statements, we have more than enough for board action. The next day, the board met again. This time it wasn't closed session. It was a vote. I didn't attend the board meeting. I wasn't invited. But Claire was there. She texted me updates throughout. 10:02 a.m. They're reviewing investigator findings. Brennan's attorney just arrived. 10:47 a.m. They played the recording. 3 board members walked out looking sick. 11:23 a.m. CFO testimony now. I'm up next. 12:15 p.m. They're discussing immediate action versus managed transition. 1:30 p.m. Vote coming. At 2:04 p.m. my phone rang. It was Catherine Moss. the board chair. Dr. Hayes, the board has made a decision regarding Mr. Brennan. I wanted you to hear it from me first. I'm listening. His employment has been terminated effective immediately. For cause. No severance package. We're issuing a public statement within the hour. I sat down. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for your courage in coming forward. The investigators uncovered significant issues we weren't aware of. You may have saved this institution. After she hung up, I sat in my office, staring at the wall. It was over. Or almost over. The press release went out at 3:30 p.m. The Board of Directors of Valley Regional Hospital announces that CEO Marcus Brennan has been terminated effective immediately following an internal investigation into ethics violations and workplace conduct issues. Chief Operating Officer Angela Foster will serve as interim CEO during the search for permanent leadership. The hospital remains committed to the highest standards of ethical conduct and transparency. We are cooperating fully with ongoing reviews and implementing enhanced oversight procedures. Surgical. Professional. Final. Within an hour, Brennan's profile disappeared from the hospital website. His parking space was reassigned. His office was cleared. It was like he'd never existed. That evening, I got one last email from him. Personal account, not hospital. You destroyed me. I hope you're proud. I didn't respond, but I forwarded it to the investigator anyway, just in case. The next week was strange. Quiet. People whispered in hallways. Executives who'd watched him scream at me suddenly wanted to talk, to apologize, to explain they'd been intimidated too. I accepted their apologies. I understood. Fear makes people complicit. But I didn't forget who'd stayed silent. 2 weeks after Brennan's termination, the consequences started spreading. 3 vendors announced they were reviewing their contracts with the hospital. Apparently, Brennan had negotiated deals that were borderline fraudulent, overcharging for services, billing for equipment never delivered. The vendors wanted to distance themselves before investigators came knocking. Then the insurance companies got involved. Our malpractice insurer requested a full audit of the past 3 years. They wanted to verify that incident reports hadn't been suppressed, that safety protocols were actually followed, that the hospital's risk management was legitimate. If they found problems, our premiums would skyrocket. Or they'd drop us entirely. The state medical board opened a preliminary inquiry into whether patient care had been compromised by the administrative chaos. The press started calling it routine follow-up. But everyone knew it wasn't routine. It was a complete breakdown of institutional trust. And it all traced back to one man's inability to accept accountability. Claire was promoted to Chief Operating Officer. Interim, but everyone knew it would become permanent. Her first action was implementing new ethics reporting procedures, independent hotlines, mandatory training, protection for whistleblowers. It should have existed already, she told me. But better late than never. I agreed. Change is slow. But it happens. Usually after someone forces it to happen. 3 weeks after Brennan's termination, the board held a special meeting. This time, I was invited. I walked into the boardroom, the same one where Brennan had screamed at me, and found 12 board members waiting. Catherine Moss stood at the head of the table. Dr. Hayes, thank you for joining us. Please sit. I sat down, confused. The board has been discussing the hospital's path forward, Catherine continued. The investigation revealed systemic governance failures. We need to rebuild credibility, both internally and with regulators. I agree. We'd like you to be part of that rebuilding. I waited. We're creating a new position, Vice President of Ethics and Compliance. Direct board oversight. Independent budget. Authority to investigate any matter without administrative approval. She looked at me directly. We want you to take the role. I hadn't expected this. I need to think about it, I said carefully. Of course. But Dr. Hayes, you've proven you can't be intimidated. You prioritize integrity over politics. That's exactly what this institution needs. Can I review the position description and reporting structure? Absolutely. We'll send everything today.
She paused.
We know we failed you. We allowed a toxic leader to operate unchecked for too long. We're trying to do better. It was the closest thing to an apology I'd get from a hospital board. I'll review everything and respond within a week. That's all we ask. After the meeting, Claire caught me in the hallway. Are you going to take it? She asked. I don't know yet. You should. You've earned it. Or, they're trying to contain me. She smiled. Maybe both. But you'll have real power. Use it. I spent 3 days reviewing the position offer. The salary was substantial. The authority was unprecedented. Direct access to the board, independent investigation power, protection from retaliation written into the hospital bylaws. It was everything a compliance officer should have. But I had terms. On Monday, I scheduled a meeting with Catherine and Claire. I'll accept the position, I said. But with conditions. Catherine raised an eyebrow. Go on. First, full ethics autonomy. I report only to the board. No executive, not the CEO, not the COO, not the CFO, can override my investigations or decisions. Agreed. Second, external reporting authority. Any credible allegation of executive misconduct goes directly to outside investigators. No internal filtering. That's aggressive, Claire said. That's necessary. Internal investigations protect the institution, not the truth. Catherine nodded slowly. Agreed. Third, quarterly public reports on ethics complaints, investigations, and outcomes. Anonymized but transparent. Staff need to know the system actually works. The board may push back on that. Then I'll withdraw my acceptance. Catherine and Claire exchanged glances. Give us 24 hours, Catherine said. The next afternoon, I got my answer. The board accepts all 3 conditions. When can you start?
2 weeks.
I need to transition my current responsibilities. Excellent. Welcome to the executive team, Dr. Hayes. After the meeting, Claire walked with me to the elevator. You negotiated like you were ready to walk away, she said. I was. Because you don't need this job? Because I won't do it wrong. If they wanted someone to rubber stamp decisions and keep quiet, they have the wrong person. She smiled. I know. That's why they hired you. My first day as VP of Ethics and Compliance was April 3rd. My office was on the executive floor, 3 doors down from where Brennan used to sit. The office was empty when I arrived.
No furniture.
No files. Just space. Claire found me standing in the doorway. They cleared out Brennan's office last month, she said. Figured you wouldn't want his old furniture. Good call. What are you going to do first? I thought about it. Review every ethics complaint filed in the past 5 years. See which ones were buried. Which ones were ignored. Make sure people know we're taking this seriously now. That'll take months. Then it takes months. She handed me a folder. Start with this. Complaints filed during Brennan's tenure. 37 total. Guess how many resulted in disciplinary action? Tell me.
4.
And 3 of those were lower-level staff. Only 1 executive ever faced consequences, and it was for something Brennan couldn't cover up, fraud caught by external auditors. I flipped through the complaints. Hostile work environment. Retaliation. Safety concerns ignored. Financial irregularities. All dismissed. All buried. We're reopening every case that wasn't independently investigated, I said. That's going to make people uncomfortable. Good. Over the next weeks, I built my team. Hired investigators with backgrounds in regulatory compliance and workplace law. Created transparent reporting procedures. Trained staff on their rights and protections. And I waited to see if the new system would actually be used. I didn't have to wait long. 6 weeks after I started, I got my first test case. A nurse filed a complaint against a department head for retaliating against staff who reported medication errors. Standard complaint. Exactly the kind Brennan's administration would have buried. I assigned 2 investigators and told them to follow every lead. 3 days later, they came back with findings. The department head has been suppressing error reports for 18 months, coaching staff to document incidents as near misses instead of actual errors to avoid triggering quality reviews. Evidence. Emails. Witness testimony from 4 nurses. and altered incident reports with metadata showing when they were changed. It was clear-cut. I scheduled a meeting with the department head and HR. The investigation found credible evidence of systematic reporting violations, I told him. You'll be placed on immediate administrative leave, pending disciplinary review. He was furious. Over few error reports? This is ridiculous. Over systematic suppression of safety data. That's not minor. Who do you think you are? You can't just. I'm the VP of Ethics and Compliance. This is exactly what I can do. I kept my voice level. You deliberately hid medication errors from quality review. That endangered patients and violated state reporting requirements. This isn't negotiable. He appealed to Claire. Then to Catherine. Both of them backed my decision. Dr. Hayes has full authority in ethics matters, Catherine told him. If you want to challenge the findings, you can request external review. But the leave stands. He resigned instead. Word spread fast. The new ethics office had teeth. People started coming forward. Over the next 3 months, we investigated 22 complaints. 15 resulted in disciplinary action. 3 led to terminations. 4 were found to be unsubstantiated, but still investigated thoroughly and transparently. I published quarterly reports, just as I'd promised. Anonymized but detailed. Q2 2024, 22 complaints received. Average investigation time, 8 days. Outcomes, 15 substantiated, 4 unsubstantiated, 3 pending external review. Staff started trusting the system. Leaders started taking complaints seriously because they knew I would. And the hospital started changing. Not overnight. Not perfectly. But changing. In August, Catherine asked me to present at a board meeting about our progress. You've transformed our compliance culture in 4 months, she said. The board wants to understand how. I prepared a presentation. Data. Outcomes. Testimonials from staff. The final slide was simple. Ethics requires 3 things: clear rules, real consequences, and leaders who won't look away. After the presentation, one board member asked, how do we make sure this continues if you leave? You build it into the institution. Make ethics part of performance reviews. Promote people who demonstrate integrity. And never hire another leader who thinks they're above accountability. Another board member spoke up. Do you think we failed by hiring Brennan? Yes. But you succeeded by removing him. That's what matters. The room was quiet. You're right, Catherine said finally. We did fail. And we're grateful you held us accountable. In September, federal regulators announced the results of their audit. The hospital had to pay fines for the billing irregularities from Brennan's era. But they acknowledged the new leadership's cooperation and the ethics reforms we'd implemented. Valley Regional Hospital has taken significant steps to address systemic governance failures and establish robust compliance procedures, the report stated. The institution appears committed to meaningful reform. It was the best outcome we could have hoped for. But the real victory was quieter. Staff felt safe reporting problems. Leaders listened. The culture was changing from fear-based to trust-based. One afternoon, a young resident stopped me in the hallway. Dr. Hayes? I just wanted to say thank you. For what? I filed a complaint last month about a supervising physician who was verbally abusive. I was terrified I'd be retaliated against. But your office investigated, and he was disciplined. And nothing happened to me. She looked almost surprised. The system actually worked. That's how it's supposed to work. I know, but it never did before. That moment mattered more than any press release or board commendation. Because that's what ethics is really about. Not policies. Not procedures. People feeling safe enough to tell the truth. A year after Brennan was terminated, Catherine asked me to join her for coffee. I wanted to check in, she said. See how you're doing. I've fine. Busy but fine. You've exceeded every expectation the board had when we created your position. She stirred her coffee thoughtfully. We're formalizing your role. Removing the interim status. Adding 2 more investigators to your team. That's good. We need the capacity. There's something else. She looked at me carefully. We're revising bylaws to require all future executives to have ethics training and independent reporting structure. We're codifying what you've built so it outlasts any individual leader. That's smart. It's what you insisted on from the beginning. We should have listened sooner. She paused. Dr. Hayes, do you ever regret how you handled Brennan? The way it escalated. I thought about it honestly.
No.
I followed the rules. I documented everything. I let the process work. He destroyed himself by trying to control something he couldn't control. You could have quit, walked away, found another job. I could have, but then nothing would have changed. He'd still be CEO, and someone else would eventually suffer what I went through. So you stayed to fix the system. I stayed because it was right. Catherine smiled. That's why the board trusts you. You don't operate from ego or revenge, just from principle. Principle is all that matters in ethics work. Without it, you're just politics. Speaking of which, she said carefully, have you heard anything about Brennan?
No. Why?
He's been trying to get another CEO position, using contacts, references from before our investigation. But word has spread. No one will hire him. I didn't feel satisfaction or pity, just acknowledgement that consequences were real. 18 months after the incident, I got an unexpected email from Marcus Brennan. Dr. Hayes, I've been doing a lot of thinking over the past year and a half. I want you to know that I finally understand what happened. I built a career on control, on making people fear consequences more than they valued truth. I thought that was leadership. I thought that was strength. You showed me it was just fear. And fear eventually breaks. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that what you did, holding me accountable when no one else would, it was the right thing. I destroyed my own career by thinking I was untouchable. You just refused to pretend otherwise. I hope you're doing well, Marcus. I read it twice. Then I archived it without responding. Not out of cruelty, but because some conversations are complete without replies. He'd learned his lesson too late to save his career. But maybe not too late to save himself. That wasn't my concern anymore. My concern was making sure the next Marcus Brennan got stopped earlier. Before the damage spread. Before people got hurt. That's what ethics work is. Prevention, not punishment. The next day, I presented at a national healthcare compliance conference. The topic, building ethics systems that can't be silenced. Standing at the podium, looking out at hundreds of compliance officers from hospitals across the country, I realized something. What happened with Brennan wasn't unique. It was common, but it didn't have to be. Ethics only works if it can't be controlled by the people it's meant to oversee, I told the audience. The moment your CEO can silence you, you're not compliance. You're public relations. Someone asked, how do you get leadership to agree to independent oversight? You build it into contracts, into bylaws, into institutional structure. And if they won't agree, you walk away. Because a compliance officer without independence is worse than no compliance officer at all. Another question, what if you're afraid of retaliation? Then you document everything. You use external resources. And you remember that retaliation is evidence of wrongdoing. People who have nothing to hide don't threaten people for asking questions. The room was silent. I know it's scary. I know it's risky. But someone has to be willing to tell the truth. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Afterward, dozens of people came up to me, shared their stories, asked for advice. I gave them the same answer I'd given myself. Follow the rules. Document everything. Don't back down. 2 years after Brennan screamed at me to get out, I walked past his old office. It belonged to someone else now. The new CEO, carefully vetted, thoroughly background checked, and very aware of what happened to his predecessor. The office looked different, lighter. The oppressive energy was gone. I stood in the doorway for a moment, remembering. Brennan had stood in this office and built an empire on fear. He'd thought power meant control, meant making people too scared to question him. He'd yelled, "Get out," and expected me to disappear. Instead, I'd quietly triggered the ethics clause. Filed one report. let the process work, and watched his empire collapse. Not because I was powerful, but because the system I trusted actually worked when someone used it correctly. That's the lesson people miss. Power isn't volume. It's not threats. It's not intimidation. Power is knowing the rules and using them when everyone else is too afraid. Power is documentation, process, patience. Power is being willing to stand up when it matters, even if you're standing alone. Brennan yelled, "Get out," to feel powerful. I never raised my voice, and I erased him instead. Not with revenge, not with anger, with rules, with truth, with evidence. He thought he was untouchable because he'd never been touched. I showed him that no one is untouchable, not even CEOs, especially not CEOs. I walked away from his old office and headed to mine. I had work to do, cases to review, people to protect. Because that's what ethics is. Protecting people from those who think they're above consequences. And I'd proven something 2 years ago that still mattered today. No one is above consequences. No one. Not ever.